So good evening, everyone, and we are now today's
Good evening,
22nd
sir.
February, and we are today joined by respected Rajesh Avasthi sir. He's one of the leading educationist, not only in Indore but in entire Madhya Pradesh, if I have to say. He keeps on traveling throughout India and across the world also for continuously exploring new way in education. And recently, when I met him around some time back, so he's also said that his school is a part of CBSE's program where they participate in the how to develop skills among students. So I heartily welcome Rajesh Avasthi sir for today's webinar. Just a few quick points. We will be sharing 2 to 5 minutes, and then we'll have quick question and answer session if time permits us. Else, all of you may share your questions, and I will try to get it answered by sir. And it's over to Rajesh Avasthi sir now.
Okay, thank you, Swarnaji. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And I could see always smiling Dr. Rajesh Sharma. Sir, just seeing you, boost the morale. So, thank you very much for this opportunity. We have to talk about the national education policy. The national education policy of 2020, which has come after a very long. The first policy came in 1968, and then we had the policy in 1986 with some additions in 1992, and then we have in 2020 the policy, and it is yet to be implemented fully. Before we start talking about the features of the policy, let's understand what exactly policy is. So whenever we make a policy, it's usually a threefold system. So threefold system is that the first fold is the planning. So where the policy comes in. So policy sets the directives, and policy answers that, why we want to do something. We want to change certain things in the education system. So the policy recommends that what could be the changes based on various approaches which the team carries out, the data collected, and then the suggestion goes to the government in the form of draft and then the policy. But then this is just a one fold of it. And the second fold is the framework. Now, the framework is the answer of how to do it. So, I always say that the new education policy, since it came after a very long wait, so it is most hyped thing, in last 1 or 2 years. We are talking about the education policy, but this is just, you can say that the 25% of what we have to do, and it does not actually signifies that how the education system is going to work. So the second fold is the framework, and this framework I think will come within a couple of years, and most probably by 2023 we'll have the framework, and NCERT is already working on it, and they have covered almost all the aspects of the education policy for the school system. And maybe if I say that around 60-65% work is done. The third fold of this policy is the implementation. And again, this implementation is the answer of the second how, that how we are going to implement it. This is the most important part of any policy, that how the policy is going to be implemented. Uh, Many of us, I believe, that are aware about how the policy has evolved from 1968, from first policy to 2020, the recent policy. And if we compare all these three policies, I think we will get the insight of how the policy is made. The policy is made with only one intention, and that intention is that how you can make learning happen in the classroom, in the classroom, outside the classroom, and what we are going to do with that learning. So at the policy level, if we see, so not much of changes you can see, and it's more of using the same thing, same thoughts with the different terminology. So if I say that what is new in the policy, so policy doesn't have anything which has come out of the world. And maybe, if especially if I talk about the CBSE school, because I come from that fraternity, so you will find that majority of the things the CBSE schools are already doing. So from the policy point of view, I mean, not much to understand is. So we have to wait for the curriculum framework to come, and then how we are going to see the focus. So let's see that from the first fold, we directly jump to the third fold. So how this is going to work. Just let me share my screen so that I can use some of the points which will affect. So the point is that how we are going to work on the policy, and the success of the policy depends upon the participation of the stakeholders. Another important thing which we all should keep in mind is whenever policy is made, and especially in country like ours, so we have a mixture of private and public schools. So the term which we use, public schools, basically are the private schools. The public schools are the government schools. This we have to understand. But we have got all the private schools as public school, and we do not know anything about the actual public schools, what their name is. So they are named by the numbers, that school number 1, school number 2, school number 3, school number 4. So let's say that the private schools and the government schools. So when the government is making the policy, so the policy is made so that it reaches to the last person. The benefit reaches to the last person. So there are many things in the education policy where you find that these things are not for you, but may not be in the same context, but it is applicable to you in all other contexts. So that we'll see that how this is going to be. And then let's see that how we are going to use this education policy. So first, if we talk about, so we talk about that there is a change in the structure. The structure of what? Structure of what? The curriculum structure, that we will come to know later when the curriculum will be developed. But then this is the change in the pedagogical, this academic structure. And what this academic structure is? So academic structure is basically the classes from 0 to 12, 0 to 100, when we divide it into the first 10, second 10, third 10. So the first best thing which happened in the education policy in the academic structure is that it now includes the preschool as a formal schooling. Till now, we were not having preschool as formal schooling. So our schooling starts, even, all those are from Madhya Pradesh. They can recently view the circular sent by the government where they have allowed the school to reopen. And then they say that you reopen the school from class 1 to class 12. Because it doesn't come in the formal education system till date. But then with the new education policy, when it's ready to be implemented in the state, so you have the formal preschool also as a part of the formal system. So we had, 1 to 5 as the primary level program. Then we had 6, 7, 8 as a middle level program. And then we had 9 to 12 as secondary and senior secondary program. Now the classes remains the same. Earlier also the schools, they were running from nursery to class 12th. Right now also they are running nursery to class 12th. So it is now, you cannot extend it beyond 12th and you cannot take it below nursery. But the change here is that they have created a group, and that group is from nursery to class 2. So 5 years of the foundational learning. They call it as the foundation, where, the emphasis starts from formal language and learning, numeracy, language learning and numeracy. Then we have the 3 years, that is, the age group classes 3 to 5. And that is the preparatory stage or middle stage. Then you have the secondary stage. So there is nothing change in it. If we see earlier also, the education was for 15 years. But out of 15 years, 3 years were not the formal education. But now we have got a formal 15-year education system starting from nursery. So we have 3 preschool added. So on paper, if we see, so we have extended the school years from 12 years to 13 years. But actually, it is not. It was, since it was not recognized, so it did not calculated the 3 years. Then we have some of the key principles, let's say, of the education policy, education policy of 2020. So we start with, the introduction of the local context in the curriculum. Now, what this local context in the curriculum is. So when curriculum is prepared, so there is one body which prepares the curriculum for the whole country, and that is NCERT. We all know what NCERT is. So NCERT prepares the curriculum, and since education is in the concurrent list, so states have some freedom to add to the curriculum, or we say that to deviate from this curriculum to some extent where they can include the local factors. Now, why this is important and how we can do it. So when the child comes to the school, the first thing is that, when we start teaching the child, which the child has not experienced at all. I'll give you one very good example of this. And this morning it happened. I was talking to my science teachers, the primary science teachers, and we are designing our own content in our book for the primary classes. And then, when we compared some of the books which we were following, so we came across that a class 3 child, class 4 child is learning skeleton system, is learning circulatory system, is learning respiratory system. And the teacher says that it is very difficult even for the child to spell skeleton, to spell respiratory system. Now, you want to teach science. Now, why you want to teach science? Let's see this. I mean, as an educationist, as a teacher, we must understand that we have to raise the questions and we have to answer those questions. So the first question which I raise for myself and for everybody, and that question is that why should we study science and why should we teach science? So as a student, I ask a question to myself that why should I study science? And as a teacher, I ask the question to myself that why should I study, why should I teach science? Now, what is the answer to that? No, the answer is because, it is taught in the school, so we are teaching it in the school. But then this is not actually the correct answer. So the correct answer is that by teaching science, we are trying to develop a scientific temperament which make students, to learn the cause and effect relationship. Number one. Number two is to develop analytical skills. Now, this goes right from primary till your post graduation, because if you take science as a subject, you are not teaching anything which is not proven at any level. Any level, just think of a concept which is not proven. You teach Archimedes principle. Is it something which is devised by you or devised yesterday? No. We just do even all the practicals in the senior schools. Are they designed new? No. Titration. I mean, for long in chemistry going on, Young's modulus, long in chemistry, long in physics going on. So basically, we are trying to develop the concept of understanding the cause and relationship, developing analytical abilities, and also the observation skills. Now, when I am not experiencing something which I am taught, the learning will not be effective for anything. Now, I belong to Indore. But I haven't find, I also studied social science. I was a student of humanities. Till graduation, I studied history. But in history, I never studied something about Indore, the place I belong to. Whereas, Devi Ahilyabai Holkar, I mean, she's considered as designated as Devi and Indore. But then I do not know anything about it till the time, unless and until I am interested in it. So I am learning so many things without considering the local factors. Another important thing is that the subject like history, the example I gave you, so there is one saying about history, and that saying is that history is not what happened. History is what historian tell us. So that is why we always keep fighting on the history part of that. So the coming back to the point is that when you teach the subject, you somewhere have to pay some respect to the local context, and child should be taken from local to global. So and another thing is that when you are teaching something which is local, the child is directly or indirectly experiencing it. Now, there is going to be another term which we will be discussing, and that term is experiential learning. That what experiential learning is. So that also will, need to be redefined and understood in its true spirit. So the new education policy says that you include the local context in the curriculum, in all the curriculum, and how you can do it. So when we talk about interdisciplinary content, or we talk about the multidisciplinary, transdisciplinary, there are so many words which we use for it. So you can very well do it. Say, for example, you can have stories in English which reflects some of the local content of the city where you are into. Many of these schools, many of the teachers, they do practice these things. But then, simple letter writing, if you are teaching, and can we have some historical fact of the city where the child, do some research about the city, or about, nowadays I have seen, especially schools in Indore, and everybody in the world in Indore talk about the cleanliness. Talk about the clean, and there are so much content developed in the languages itself where the students, they are made aware of the cleanliness project of Indore. So not necessary that you need to design a curriculum, because then the question will ask how we are going to make local context with regards to mathematics. But then we need to understand that why we are teaching mathematics. The question is, so you're not teaching mathematics to teach calculation, because there are so many people, who have not gone to school or who have not studied mathematics at all, but they do the calculation faster than a mathematical literate. So it is about creating the logic, that how you are going to creating the logic. So when you give examples, so can we have some local context in the example, the class appropriate things in the example? I mean, not all primary, not all secondary, not all middle school. Second thing is, and which I think, it is, I really admire that, and that is the inclusive education, the equity and inclusive education. So when we say that education for all, it means education for all. I mean, there is no discrimination on any ground with the learners or amongst the learners. So now again, we need to understand that, what the inclusion is. So whenever we talk about inclusion, we have some limited, you can say, understanding of the inclusion, and we talk about children with special needs. No, it is not limited only. It is with the gifted children also. It is with the normal children also. So that means that whether the child is a need, these three broad categories we want, that means that everybody need to be treated at the same level and should be required the given piece of the cake, so far as the learning is concerned. So whatever decisions you are taking. Now, here again, if you see on your screen, point number 2, it is written that all educational decisions. So the national education policy doesn't talk only about the academic part, only about the classroom teaching part. It does talk about the skill development. It does talk about the vocational or vocationalization of the education system. So when what does this equity means? Equity means that the same opportunity is given to everybody in the school or in the classroom. So inclusion of everything, all categories of children, and equal opportunity for everybody. And also, if we talk about equity, whosoever requires whatever thing, that is given to that child. So if we have gifted child, we must have something for the gifted children. If we have children with a special need, we must give something which they want, with the special need children they want. So this is called equity. Equity is something, profit-based thing. Then the third thing comes, and that is the community participation, and it talks about uplifting the philanthropical private community participation. Now, again, the education policy talk about the public partnership, the private public partnership, or inviting students, or inviting teachers, inviting the various trust and all, donors and all, to contribute something, for the upliftment of education. But no, that is not actually the case. The community participation, it's not in terms of funding, but the community participation is in the form of how you can contribute. I'm using the word contribute. How you can contribute to uplift the learning of the child in the school. Now, this may require that you have some people in the society come in and talking to your children. The children is moving out of the class and learning something, in the real world scenario. So you have to uplift the academic standards through philanthropic activity. And this, again, a lot of schools are doing it. Schools have community clubs. Now, what these community clubs, they do? So the purpose of setting up the community club is to make students aware, or to sensitize students towards their responsibility. So like we have, for the companies, we call it as the corporate social responsibility, but there is one personal social responsibility also. Every individual has. And these children should be sensitized through various ways, that how they can serve the society. I'll give you a simple example. I have come across many students of different schools who are registered as scribe for the examination for people who cannot write, maybe people who do not have the upper limb, or the person is visually challenged. So they work as a scribe. Now this is where the school, the community club, they are all trying to get involved in the need of the community. And similarly, I have seen many schools inviting people from the community to talk to their children. Now we use the term moral development, but there is I personally do not believe that anything regarding moral exists. It is all in the behavior. It is not in the book. Then next comes is the use of technology. Oh my goodness, we have been doing it for last 2 years. All are technology expert now. I always say that the teachers have proven to be the most adaptable living being on this earth, because the way they have shifted the whole learning process from offline to offline, that too, within a couple of weeks, I think that is quite critical. But we need to understand that what technology actually means. So there are two terms, and very common terms which we have come across, and in B.Ed also we have learned this: education technology and technology in education. So when we talk about technology, what are we talking about? Are we talking about something which is the machines? So for us, like we use the term smart classroom. What does a smart classroom means? So does a smart classroom means that having a projector, having some ready-made and video content and showing that content? No, smart classroom means that where you are blending the learning with the technology. So there is a term called blended learning. How blended learning can help? How blended learning can help the student, can help the teacher to attain knowledge in a better way, and also to use knowledge. So the technology has got two parts. One part is that whatever tools you are using, but then many of us have done something which is really very wonderful, and that is that creating the content on the social media platform, using the social media platform, and those social media platforms are really very helpful and are doing well. So this is the another part of the third part of technology, which I think is very much possible also, and that is called the blended learning. Now, this is the concept which was not very much appreciated, in the pre-COVID era. But all of a sudden, then, in the COVID era, when we had to shift to technology, so this blended learning has come at the front seat, has taken the driving seat. The point is that how we are going to go about the blended learning. See, there is one very good thing in the education policy is that it talks about making learner independent, not the dependent learner, making learner independent. And in my words, I always feel that, the schools are the place who will provide the opportunity to the learner to create knowledge on their own. So the role of teacher actually should be of the facilitator, which for almost 2 years, because remote learning and you are seeing the students in just a frame of one by one. You do not know what is there on the screen of the student's laptop, and you are sharing some of the resources. You are asking the student to create his or her own resources, and then to convert it into the knowledge and further to the intelligence. So the blended learning is the concept where you share the these resources with the children, and then the children use those resources, and the classroom is changed. So there is no teaching happening in the classroom. It is only the discussion which is happening in the classroom. So this is what the blended learning and the use of technology in the classroom is. Then comes the conceptual learning, the skill-based learning, which we were just talking about. And this is again a wonderful thing. If every teacher follow this, if every teacher follows, then it's a very good concept. Now, what this conceptual learning is? The conceptual, every subject has a core concept that, the question which I asked is that why should I teach the subject, or why should I learn the subject? So when we are teaching the subjects, say for example, we are teaching languages. Now, the first misunderstanding is that we always call English as a subject, or Hindi as a subject, or any language as a subject, which they are not. The languages are used to express. So what is the use of language? To express your ideas, your thoughts, your feelings, and we can define like this. Now, when you are teaching the expression, so how expression can be developed by the teacher without the involvement of the so you have to move around the expressions. So what are the different kind of expressions you have? As a teacher, we must know that when I'm teaching, how to write an essay, I'm talking about the creative writing. If I am teaching about the poetry, how to say things, in similes, or in short, or using various tools of writing the prose, or biography, or travelogue, So we always say that let's focus on the reading, writing, listening, speaking. So okay, fine. These are the 4 basic skills of any.
Sir, excuse me.
Yeah.
सर आपकी आवाज प्रॉपर नहीं आ रही है, अभी बीच में साउंड अच्छा रहता है और फिर एकदम लो हो जाता है.
Okay, is that so? Everybody is saying facing the same problem? Am I audible now?
Yeah.
No, sir.
It happened for a few seconds in between, but I guess overall it's okay.
Okay.
No, sir.
Okay, thank you, Raksha ji. So I was talking about, every subject has a concept. So the concept of teaching language. So the concept of teaching language is to develop the expression. The concept of teaching mathematics. The concept of teaching mathematics is creating logic. There cannot be anything which is illogical in mathematics. How to teach and why to teach science? So science is for observation, for analysis. Why to teach social science? I mean, social science is such a beautiful subject, all the 4 components, that if it is taught in the same spirit, I think, we can change the whole world. I always say that the social science is the subject which can make the world a better place to live. So when we are teaching history, so history is basically, we teach in the form of information, whereas history is a comparison. So, you have something left behind, and which is coming to you today, and it has to be passed on to the, so every generation in history is present. How you are going to relate the man-to-man relationship in the past, in the present, a comparison, and how it could be in the future. And if you see, so the concepts of what you are doing today were existing in the history also. Say, for example, the federal system. Now, the federal system is not something, which has come out of our own constitution in 1950. No. The federal system was there in the ancient Indian history also. I mean, the first era of Indian history, what we call it. So we had the Janpad, we had the Mahajanpad during the Ashoka time, during the Samudragupta time. So what is the similarity between the Janpads? Then we had the Mansabdars and the Rayyatwars. And now today we have the Tehsildar, and then we have the district collector, and then we have the Patwari of the village. Is there any similarity? What has changed? So the only thing which has changed is actually, the way of working. Even the responsibility remains the same. So how you are going to paint the picture for the future? Similarly, I always talk about the secularism. It is the most controversial thing of the independent India. The most controversial thing in the now, secularism was not something again which has come after the independence or during the independence. You go to Akbar's time. He started that, okay, Dine Ilahi, where you whatever you want to do, the way you want to worship, you worship. I don't have any problem. The state doesn't have any problem. So whatever we are doing has a roots in the history, and then you are planning something new. So this says that when you talk about social science, you talk about the critical thinking part, the man and environment relationship. I mean, that is geography we talk about. So it's simple. There is nothing different than the relationship, how men manage relationship with the environment, or how you should behave in the society. I mean, what are the principles of which commands your behavior in the society? We call it the political life. So, how you teach history is how you teach geography, or how you teach economics, or any other subject you take, has got some concept which need to be followed. Second thing is that the skills related to the concept. So the skills related to each and every concept that you have to define, and that you can have your own. And this examination policy, like other examination policy, education policy, with regard to the previous education policies, also talks about, rote learning, that rote learning should be eliminated. Now, when rote learning should be eliminated, who is going to eliminate the rote learning? The government is not going to eliminate the rote learning. You and me are going to eliminate the rote learning. And a very good example is of the current class 10th and 12th examination, the first term examination, where, all the question in the question papers were conceptual question papers. The students were not taught that way. So it does talk about the assessment also. The education policy talks about assessment for student development. Now, it's a very unfortunate part of the Indian education system is assessment is used for certification. It is not used for the student achievement. And I mean, we can very well introspect. We can very well talk about our own work. And we have tremendous educational data. Every school is conducting examination. What we do with the data which we receive after conducting the examination, type of questions asked. So how we reassess our own question paper and do a comparative study of the question paper of last 5 years, that how we have changed the question papers, the student performance. So the student performance, question wise, the student performance. So I have come across many schools and many teachers, who do talk about so-called Bloom's taxonomy and how we are doing. But then how far we are in a position to set the question paper about the Bloom's taxonomy? Some well-read people talks about the Solow taxonomy also. Again, not very popular, but then yes, quite effective. So the Solow taxonomy says that, from one pillar, you go to the multiple pillar, and then, the extended learning happens. Now, there is one question, and that question is, what is photosynthesis? Now, this question can be asked from, okay, am I audible to others? Nupuraji is not able to hear me. Okay, fine. Swanji.
Yes, sir. Audible, sir. Audible,
Okay,
sir.
fine.
It is clear,
Fine.
sir.
So there is a question called what is photosynthesis? Now, this question can be asked in 5-6 different ways, according to the category you want to. So there is a simple question is that what is photosynthesis? Now, it reflects the knowledge part of the Bloom's taxonomy. What do you understand by photosynthesis? Now, the answer is going to change. How plants make their food. Now, this is the third way of asking photosynthesis, which is the application based. I have kept 2 plants. So one plant is covered with the black polythene and one plant is in the open air. After 5 days, I find that the plant with the covered with the black polythene died, but the other plant did not. Now this is an analysis question. So like this, you can use your own question, you can develop your own questioning skills in order to make student learn better. And remember one thing is that when you certify a students to be promoted to the next class, that means that you are going to make the next story of the knowledge. So the next story of the knowledge is built on something which is very weak. And that is why I'm so confident in saying this, is that every teacher says this child is conceptually weak. Now the child is studying in a school for last 5, 6 years, 10 years. How can he be conceptually weak? Because we have not taken care of the concepts of the child. So the education policy says that, and it has to be that every lesson plan of yours, every annual curriculum plan of yours should be based on some authentic data which comes out of the examination. And this is why they say that the assessment should be used for the student development. Then they also talk about the abilities of the children. Now the abilities of the children, they talk about their interest, the new policy talks about. And at the same time, they also talk about the vocational education. Now this vocational education, again, as I said, that as a policy, there is nothing new in it, but only changes according to the ages, according to the era. So the last education policy which came in 1986. So in 1986, we can say that was an industrial era. So all the vocational courses were related to that industrial era. Now the vocational courses, so we are into a digital era. So all the vocational courses are into the digital era or into the corporate era. And that is why, the national vocational curriculum framework is there. Many of these schools, they are, opting for the vocational courses, and the vocational courses are now introduced right from grade 6th. And then there are certain vocational courses, where a very clear definition that what kind of job a person can do after doing this course is for every skill subject. Now, of course, vocation has been changed to skill now. So even CBSE talks about the skill education, not the vocational education. So every skill subject is, the child is getting a certificate that the child is skilled at this level. But subject to the condition, again, comes here is that this is there in the policy, but then, to make it work, you have to implement it. So the skill subject should be taught in the skilled ways. So if you are teaching, artificial intelligence, or you are teaching taxation, you are teaching marketing, you are teaching business administration, these are the courses. If you see, all these skill courses have a 60-40 ratio or a 50-50 ratio. And the major part of the assessment goes to the practical learning. So if you want to complete a course, I teach marketing to grade 11th. So if I have to complete the course, it will take just 1.5 months, to complete the marketing course. But then, does it make them skilled? No. So what do we teach them? So we actually teach them that, how to critically analyze the market, how to critically analyze the marketing philosophies, the marketing strategies, how to make the marketing strategies, and giving them the hands-on experience. So then we come to the experiential learning. So what kind of experiences you are giving? So you are conducting many activities. Now, in the language, and I think all these schools followed this, that in languages they have asked that, write your experiences about the corona. And children, and it has to be in the first person. So when it has to be in the first person, it is the creativity of my language coming in. Now, experiential learning is not only conducting the activity, but I'll always say that, all the schools, all the teachers who talk about the activity-based learning, I say that, use one adjective to the activity-based learning and make it as meaningful activity-based learning. that the activities which you are conducting, that activity should be meaningful and should reflect the learning of the child. So the education policy in the experiential learning talks about that provide hands-on experience through various activities inside the classroom, outside the classroom. And inside and outside the classroom, if the child is experiencing, how the child is going to reflect that learning. Say, for example, in the primary section or in the middle section, we talk about workforce and energy. We talk about friction. There are so many things. Now, can you give opportunity to the child that, okay, you go home, ask your mother that, I want to help you out in kitchen in making chapati. And can you teach workforce and energy with the process of making chapati? Can you teach friction with the help of making chapati? You can. But then we have a very out of the world example to teach them workforce and energy. Whereas, the child can learn such things at home by doing it. So this is where the experiential learning comes in. How you can provide the opportunity to the child, to experience what the child is learning in the classroom to the real world. And this is where another beautiful concept of the education policy, which is very, very, very important to me, and my school works on that, and that is called the problem-based learning. So the problem-based learning is different than the project-based learning. So we focus more on the project-based learning. Give project to the child so that the child will experience and child will learn. At the end, child doesn't know anything. And the best example of this is every school is conducting science exhibition. Every school is participating in various CBSE science exhibition from the local cluster level to the national level. But I haven't come across any project taking shape. I haven't seen any school coming out with some concrete project. Whereas, you have the cluster level winners, you have the state level winners, you have the national level winners, and different things. Why? Because we focus only on preparing the project and winning the prize. After that, everything goes down. Now, this is where you are giving the real life experience. And these projects should be based on some problems of the real world. And again, I know a school where the parking problem was solved by class 8th children. Now, this was the project given to them to design a parking space in the school. And it was a mathematics project. And the school doesn't have the parking problem now. So somewhere the experiential learning, somewhere the open-ended learning, the independent learning, and the problem-based learning are the opportunities where children are introduced to the real world things. And then we talk about, the critical thinking part, the analytical thinking part, the decision making and the innovation. And again, we need to understand what innovation or what these terms are. So if we see this which is there on the screen, which talks about the core essentials, which talks about the critical thinking, the interactive classes, the experiential learning, it leads to the creative part of the learning system. And remember one thing, and this is that unless and until you provide the opportunity to the child where the child can use the knowledge, that knowledge remains as an information. So you have to design an equation for it. So it is the information which should be converted into knowledge by understanding it, and then from information to knowledge, from knowledge to learning, and learning to intelligence. So if you have this progression from information to intelligence, you have to go through all these processes. So what we are talking about, actually talking about the application of the new education policies with the assumed, you can say, curriculum framework. So it is a participatory and it is holistic in approach, the new education policies. And as I say that, if it is implemented in the right spirit, I think this is going to change the system. The takeaway from the education policy, if we have to, so let's have 2 or 3 takeaways. We do not bother about the structure, whether it is nursery to class 2, class 3 to 5. I know that is
Excuse me, sir.
what is important is that what happens in the classroom. That is the important thing. So let's talk about the conceptual education, let's talk about the skill based education, let's talk about the vocational education, let's talk about the experiential learning, let's talk about the problem based learning. So if you talk about these 4-5 things and try to include it in your lesson into the classroom, I think learning will be very, very, very effective. So I think, I'm sorry I took 10 minutes more. But then, yeah, we can have any discussion if we want to have.
So thank you for the wonderful analysis of NEP, sir. And I hope that everyone in the audience has been benefited by it. If we have quickly any questions, if anyone want to ask quickly 1 or 2 questions, we can take. And then I'm sharing the links for the feedback. And if you have any other things, you may share it
Sir?
there.
I have one question.
Yes, Raksha ji, yeah.
सर जैसे हमने ज्यादातर देखा है मोस्टली स्कूल्स में, जो आप 11th-12th में सब्जेक्ट किट सिलेक्ट करते हो, या तो बायोलॉजी करेगा, या तो मैथमेटिक्स, या फिर कॉमर्स में भी एग्रीकल्चर, पर और हर बच्चा उस चीज में इंटरेस्टेड नहीं होता है। तो अभी जो न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी आई है अपनी, इसमें उनके लिए 11th-12th में ऐसा कौन सा न्यू सब्जेक्ट ऐड किया जाएगा जो उनको आगे चल के बेनिफिशियल हो?
देखिए रक्षा जी, जैसे नई एजुकेशन, आपने एक बहुत अच्छा पॉइंट बोला है जो शायद मैं मिस कर गया, कि एजुकेशन पॉलिसी ने एक जो पर्टिकुलर एक स्ट्रीम वाली बात थी, उस स्ट्रीम को भी जो है वो तोड़ दिया है इन द सेंस कि साइंस वाले बच्चे को अगर मान लीजिए फिजिक्स के साथ ड्राइंग पढ़ना है तो वो अपॉर्चुनिटी इसको है। सीबीएसई स्कूल्स में ये अपॉर्चुनिटी पहले से थी, लेकिन इसमें जो है वो सबसे बड़ी इशू आता है, वो स्कूल की तरफ से आता है कि आप कितने ऑप्शनल खोल सकते हैं, उसमें कितने बच्चे आएंगे, कॉम्बिनेशन, टाइम टेबल, देन अवेलेबिलिटी ऑफ द टीचर्स, देयर आर सो मेनी थिंग्स, तो बहुत लिमिटेशन है। पर आपके सवाल के इसमें मैं कहूंगा कि इसमें बहुत सारे वोकेशनल कोर्सेज जो हैं, वो वोकेशनल कोर्सेज जो इंट्रोड्यूस किए हैं, तो अगर आप देखेंगे तो 6th में करीबन 6-7-8 वोकेशनल कोर्सेस हैं, 6 to 8th में, 9th 10th में तकरीबन शायद 13 या 14 वोकेशनल कोर्सेस हैं, और तकरीबन 18 या 24 कोर्सेज जो लिस्टेड हैं, ये मैं सीबीएसई की बात कर रहा हूँ, जो लिस्टेड हैं क्लास 11th एंड 12th के लिए। सो एक कॉम्बिनेशन आप बना सकते हैं कि आपके स्कूल में जो है वो इंक्लिनेशन किस तरफ बच्चों का ज्यादा है, उस तरह के सब्जेक्ट्स जो है आप खोल सकते हैं, बशर्ते कि आप उसको अपने टाइम टेबल में मैनेज कर पाए, आपके स्कूल सिस्टम में जो है वो मैनेज कर पाए। अगर कोई एक बच्चा फिजिक्स के साथ आर्ट लेना चाहता है तो वो आपके लिए पॉसिबल नहीं होगा कि एक बच्चे के लिए आप अलग से, क्योंकि आपके पास टाइम जो है वो लिमिटेड है। तो ऐसी कुछ चीजें हैं। सेकेंडली, अभी जो एक स्ट्रगल चल रहा है इस एजुकेशन पॉलिसी के साथ में, जो एक फाइट चल रही है हायर एजुकेशन और स्कूल एजुकेशन के बीच में, कि एजुकेशन पॉलिसी सजेस्ट तो कर रही है कि मल्टीपल जो सब्जेक्ट्स हैं वो स्ट्रीम के हिसाब से बच्चा ले, बट वो बच्चा जिस यूनिवर्सिटी में जाएगा वहां वो कॉम्बिनेशंस अवेलेबल हैं या नहीं है। तो ये चीज को करने के लिए पहले यूनिवर्सिटीज को इक्विप करना पड़ेगा, नहीं तो ये होगा। मैं आपको एक सिंपल एग्जांपल देता हूं। मैंने ह्यूमैनिटीज के साथ मैथमेटिक्स पढ़ाना चाहा था, तो क्लास 11th में मैंने ह्यूमैनिटी के साथ मैथमेटिक्स पढ़ा, लेकिन बाद में मुझे क्लास 12th में इसलिए छोड़ना पड़ा क्योंकि मैंने जितने कॉलेजेस देखे वहां पर कहीं पर भी ह्यूमैनिटी के साथ मैथमेटिक्स पढ़ाया नहीं जाता था। तो फिर मुझे जो है वो सोशियोलॉजी के ऊपर शिफ्ट होना पड़ा क्योंकि मैं मैथमेटिक्स उसके साथ। तो ऐसी चीजें भी कई बार जो हैं वो आती है, बट वोकेशनल कोर्सेज जो हैं वो बहुत अच्छे और काफी इंट्रोड्यूस भी किए हैं उन्होंने।
सर तो इसकी लिस्ट हम कहाँ देख सकते हैं, या फिर आप लिंक शेयर कर देंगे?
सीबीएसई की वेबसाइट पे स्कूल है। अगर आपका स्कूल सीबीएसई एफिलिएटेड है तो सीबीएसई की वेबसाइट पे अगर आप जाएंगे तो उसमें स्किल एजुकेशन में इसकी लिस्ट दी हुई है। तो इसमें ना फ्रंट ऑफिस एग्जीक्यूटिव जिसको हम रिसेप्शनिस्ट कहते हैं उसके लिए भी 11th एंड 12th का कोर्स है। तो ब्यूटिशियन के लिए 11th एंड 12th का कोर्स है। इलेक्ट्रीशियन के लिए 11th एंड 12th का कोर्स है। और एक और मैं आपको एक चीज बताता हूं कि एक जर्मन कंपनी है बॉश, उसके साथ इंडियन गवर्नमेंट का एक सीएसआर हुआ है जो अभी 10 सेंटर खुलेंगे पूरे देश में। एक मेरा स्कूल भी उसका एक सेंटर है जहां पर कि जो प्रधानमंत्री कौशल विकास योजना है उसके अंतर्गत ये स्कूलों का चयन हुआ है। तो ये भी स्किल डेवलपमेंट के सेंटर्स ऐसे खुलते चले जा रहे हैं। तो कुछ जो है वो ऑलरेडी हैं जो सीबीएसई के सब्जेक्ट्स पढ़ा रहे हैं और कुछ ऐसे सब्जेक्ट्स भी आएंगे। और सीबीएसई वेबसाइट पे आप जाएंगे तो सब्जेक्ट लिस्ट मिल जाएगी आप।
सर ओके सर, थैंक यू। आप और भी इंफॉर्मेशन चाहिए हमको आपसे, सो आप आपका नंबर शेयर कर सकते हैं क्या?
बिल्कुल, मेरा ईमेल आईडी है avasthiraj@gmail.com, AWASTHIRAJ avasthiraj@gmail.com। आप इसके ऊपर मुझे मेल कर दीजिएगा, आई विल डेफिनेटली रिप्लाई बैक टू यू।
ओके सर, थैंक यू सर।
या अवस्थी राज ये एजुकेशन ने किया है, स्वर्णजीत ने किया है।
So thank you so much, Rajesh sir, for taking time for all of us
Good
from your
evening, sir.
busy.
Ranjit sir, can I ask one doubt? Sorry to interrupt.
Yes. Please, Kusum ma'am, please
Sorry
go
to
ahead.
interrupt.
No worries, ma'am. No worries.
Good
Absolutely
evening,
fine.
sir. Good evening, sir.
Good
This is
evening, Kusum
Kusum.
ji. Good evening, Kusum.
So I just wanted to know, though NAP has introduced a lot of inclusive approaches, but when we come to, let's say, cohesive approach or bringing in the equality in education, if we put across, let's say, to the principal, you being principal, so I'm putting across to you, if a teacher wants to set up a strategy or something, how are you welcoming it? Like,
Well,
is it really
probably,
welcome?
I
Or
will.
just one more point. Is NAP by government, have they put in any compulsive methodology to check on to these parameters, or they've defined any parameters for the schools to have some compulsive approach to achieve them?
Well, Kusum ji, I mean, you have pressed the Achilles heel. So what
I
we
was
see
also
is
laughing
very
on it.
great. Now there are two aspects of this. Is the first aspect, as a principal you asked me, so I welcome you to visit my school at any point of time. So my school, you will not find anything called a disciplined school. So my school is not an indisciplined school, because you will hear a lot of noises coming out of every classroom, but they are all creative noises. Second thing is that it's a very decentralized system, so even the teachers, they are free to do any experiment. The failure comes on my head, the success goes to their head. So I mean, we are very
बहुत बढ़िया सर, बहुत बढ़िया.
different, and let me tell you, this thing is, and just I give you one example and you will you can paint a picture out of that. And that is that, but whatever schools I have come across, the board course of any school, I mean course of class 10th and 12th, finishes in the month of October and November. So my deadline of finishing the course is 20th of January, not before that. And even if it is not completed, it's okay. We can slightly stretch this to 25th or 26th of January. So this much of freedom the teachers they have, and when we have the meeting, we hardly talk about how much course is left or how much course is completed. We always talk about what the learning is, what kind of learning is happening into the classroom. So it depends upon how you run the school. And the question you raised, and this is where I also feel very very much pain I feel, because you have the teacher very much interested in doing a lot of innovations into the classroom, but the system is not allowing them to. CBSE has again taken an initiative, and if the principals are there, principals, they must have gone through the pedagogical leadership workshops, being conducted. I'm one of the master trainer for that. That
We would
also
love to have, sir, one workshop pedagogical. We will love to have there.
Oh, yes. That's a wonderful thing. Every teacher must know, how to plan
Yes.
the ACP. So I think there is one point, Kusumji, to your answer is that inside the four walls of the classroom, you are the king. Principal, board, or management, anybody cannot come and interfere the way you teach, the way you deliver. So at least, take advantage of that freedom which you have, with the closed doors, and then, having fun with your children.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah.
So,
Thank you
on
so
the-
much, sir.
Oh, pleasure, ma'am. Pleasure.
So on the behalf of everyone of us, I would like to extend my heartiest thanks to Rajesh Awasthi sir for taking his personal time and from his very busy schedule to spend with all of us. But I'm sure that he will also acknowledge the fact that a lot of value has gone to the educators. And at the end of the day, that what our role is as educators from this fraternity. So thank you so much, sir. And I'm sure that all those of us who joined us as an audience today here received a lot of value. So looking forward to having next session with you, sir, whenever possible, as soon as possible, maybe. And thank you so much, sir. And
Thank you.
wishing everyone wonderful week ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Have a nice time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.